All right, let's try that. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to practice here. That looks good. I'm going to turn this light on so it's a little bit brighter. Okay. So I do want to go over, bring this side down too. I want to go over how we work with the brain and to incorporate the brain function into our practice. And just tall enough. And we just talked about this, but I'll do a little review so we can have another chance to hear it. And we're going to just start out in our sumo squat, getting the swing nice and low. Coming into 10 and 2 on our mats. Good. And just start to warm up the spine. We can't really work with the brain functionality without incorporating the whole length of the spine. And my approach is a little different. So we're going to work with the 3 Holo-spheres. I call them the Holo-spheres, which is basically some terminology I made up that came through from like my guidance and how Source sees the body in these hubs. So we're all familiar with thinking about our head as our brain, but it's been shown that there's actually a brain in every single little cell. And so our body is filled with these trillions and trillions of little brains because every cell has its own digestion and circulation and lymph and endocrine, and it's pretty amazing that we're made up of these, like every cell is a hologram of the whole body. And so the Holo-spheres are these 3 major hubs: the head, the heart, and the belly. And we want to make sure the belly sphere and the head sphere are communicating with one another through alignment and the spine, where the heart is the center. So I call the heart like the infinite intelligence or the great wisdom, the divine spark of who we are. And secretly, or not so secretly, this entire practice is a heart-centered practice, a heart-opening practice. So even in sumo, we use our arms to strongly push in, and when we do that, it helps to lift our sternum. And if we still let our hips be heavy and let gravity do its work, then our spine lengthens. We traction the spine out of the pelvis and create space for each little vertebrae. And at the same time, we want to imagine that there's a kite lifting up through the crown of the head straight up and pulling us up. So we want to make sure that that pillar from the crown of the head to the tailbone is communicating that it's open, that it's aligned, and that we feel connected through these 3 hubs or Holo-spheres. I'll call them hubs so people know more of what I'm talking about. And then what we're also going to do today is we're going to make sure that we're opening up with a lot of spiraling in the body. And one way to simply get in tune with the spiral dynamics is windshield wipering. Windshield wipering the knees, the feet, in different poses. If you imagine windshield wipers just going back and forth, it opens up the spin and the spiral of the body. Would you like your swing higher? Are you feeling okay? Could be up 1.
Maybe I'll put it up.
Cool. Great. And then we'll leave the leg loops where they are, but if we need to move the leg loops, we'll do that. But I think that would be good. Yeah. Yeah, since we have the space, might as well, right? Just make sure that feels good. And we're going to get into, we're doing our warm-up lap. And with that introduction, we're going to be focusing on these 3 hubs or Holo-spheres in all the poses. But after we get into our warm-up lap wiggling, we're going to warm up in our Chillaxin Pose. So arms stay wrapped around, we reach for the leg loops. They're going to go behind the knees. Use your core and lift to get that behind the back of the knee. All right, second side. Make sure that the knees are not higher than the chest, but not so low that you're not feeling the stretch. That's perfect. That's a good height. I'm just going to make sure we have our alignment down before we get into anything else. And then our Chillaxin arms support our head. So one of the most important access points when we're working with the brain function is the brain stem. And The brainstem isn't one of those parts of the body that we actually talk too much about. Well, I don't hear it coming up in too much like social conversations. But the brainstem has a lot to do with the superhighway of the nervous system going from the head brain down the spine, and the nervous system spreads out along these two hubs through the C7 joint down the arms, and then through the lower back into the legs. Even some of this might be obvious, but it's good to get the full picture and go over it. So whenever we work with brain function, we're always working with the spine and the nervous system at the same time. And so we're still windshield wipering here, right? So just letting the knees sway from side to side and swagger will help us open up the hips, and it starts to create a pulsation. And we're moving the energy up the spine, up and down the spine with our breath. We're going to focus on long, deep inhalations and exhalations today for more of a restorative, de-stressing practice. And the holidays are wonderful for a lot of people, but for others, they can be pretty stressful. So we're wanting to give ourselves a chance to deeply relax in the swing. We're still going to get some strengthening going and some dynamic movements, but that opportunity to go deep into the stretches and into the breath will help to de-stress the body. Okay, I just have to adjust one more thing with my swing so I have a little bit more space from the wall. But go ahead and just sway a little bit more. Pull up and out with your hands so you feel like you can give the occipital ridge and brain stem a little bit more space in the cervical spine. See what that feels like. I love using my own touch to do a little yoga massage, which also, a lot of stress is held in the neck and shoulders, and that is a great way to help release and relax that part of the body that holds so much tension. Yeah, and just the focus on the brain stem and noticing this insertion point. This is actually considered an inception point for spirit. Is right here where there's like a little hole in the center of the occiput. Yeah, the atlas connection. So it's a really powerful point, and it actually really likes attention, gentle attention. And one of the beautiful benefits of focusing on the brain function is the result of increasing the happy hormones or the de-stressing hormones in the body. Oftentimes our body will be in that contracted fight or flight, braced movement or motion in the day, handling the pace of the world and circumstances. But we really want to consciously produce more of the happy hormones in the body, more of the relaxants, the body's ability to experience more ease. So from here, let's go ahead and reach for our knees, and we're going to immediately come all the way up to stand. So hold on to the top of the leg loops, inhale, lift, bicep curl, come on up, and come into a high skydiver position. Get into a good place, because there is a sweet spot where the leg loops feel better than others. Just remember that it's okay to wiggle around until you find it. And we can come into our forward folds and our headstand from here. But since we are focusing on the neck, let's go ahead and do our training wheels sequence where we shift the swing from underneath the armpits to around the back of the neck. Walk your feet forward to the front of the mat and then let yourself float. Okay, hold on to both sides of the swing with your hands for support. And inhale, lift like you're nodding. Exhale, drop the chin, look down. So inhale, lift, and exhale, lower. Be really easy about it. The more you drop your hips, the more weight there is, tractioning the back of the neck. And you can also squeeze your hands towards one another, helping to open up the jaw and the sides of the neck. So there's lots of different variations that you can try. Just notice what feels good on the body. And take some time to roll around and freestyle as well. See what feels good. Listen to the body. What does it need right now? So I find it to be extremely helpful to open up the pathway of the spine and the neck before going into headstands or any sort of inversions where we're increasing the flow to the brain, to the head. And I also want to focus on some pineal activation today, because the pineal is one of the most important glands in the brain, in the head brain, that controls the energy of the body, how we feel, hormone production. So many connections to opening up the crown or opening up the pillar to activating the pineal. It's also kind of our access to higher mind or higher wisdom. It's a very important part of the brain. Awesome. Just a few more deep breaths here. Remember to increase long, slow, rhythmic, deep breaths to stimulate more relaxation and de-stressing today. I like to give lots of time to explore, playtime, open time. It's really important that we can feel what the body needs, particularly at the occiput or occipital ridge. This is where the atlas can get very stuck, that insertion point. So just tiny little micro movements to massage out that tension is incredibly helpful. Yeah, good. Okay, we're gonna lift ourselves up, holding on to the swing to stand again, and then just give a minute. Let the body have a sacred pause where it can just feel the difference, and we let the neck fluff back up after that squeezing and wringing out. And in the expansion, it's like a sponge. It's going to absorb more blood and oxygen as room has opened up, right? So it might feel a little warm, or there might be a flush of heat over the body. All of that is okay. Just takes a little bit of getting used to. And now the swing is going to come overhead through the center. And we're going to press it down strongly so it's at the front of the hips. Now the swing can be higher or lower. So we brought your swing up one, but if you wanted to be closer to the ground, you could always bring it down. But I like it with my arms straight. I'm up on my tippy toes, and it's right where it's supposed to be, where the leg inserts into the pelvis. So not the bladder and not the belly, not at the navel, but down where the leg inserts into the hip. And it's actually below the hip joint, the hip bone. That's really an important cue. If it's above the hip bone, it just doesn't feel nearly as good. And we're going to float, because now we're kind of triple bounded here. And we're going to rock a little bit up and down so that the swing can slide into the sweet spot. So my hands are on the ground, shoulder distance. My elbows are bent and hanging. I can have my elbows down if I was a little closer to the ground, but I'm pretty high up. And then I'm just rocking my feet up and down. This is also massaging out more, a little deeper, like a rolfing session, any tension that's living in the front of the pelvis. And that's okay. You can always just try and soften or go slower. You don't have to have a big movement here to get great effect, good results. And then we're going to bend our knees, bring our heels towards our bum, shake out your head, and let the elbows drop a little further down. Maybe they touch, maybe they don't, but I call this more of a floating headstand, because when we do a traditional forward fold, our head usually touches the ground. In this version, it's not. We're going to do both, so we are going to activate the pineal by pressing it into the earth, but for this one, it's really about creating space. Some of the important cues is squeezing the knees together to spread the sacrum. Yeah, if I lift my knees towards the sky, I come down, and if I pull my knees towards my chest, I come up. So there's a pivot point here at the hip joint, the hip crease. So see what feels good. Find your favorite position. And then we're going to let ourselves kind of lengthen and grow and stretch out. Hang out for about 3 minutes. We're taking
nice and slow today with our emphasis on a more restorative, distressing practice. And in yoga, headstand is called the king of all postures because of the incredible benefits that it has on the body. What's great about doing these poses in the swing is there's absolutely no pressure on the neck. And it's great to strengthen the neck and build up those side muscles. But sometimes it can also strain the neck and we're not able to stay in a headstand for very long. Or we can lose our balance and fall over. So the swing is holding us, creating that balance, creating the length and symmetry, pulling on the hips evenly. And it just feels really good to hang, letting the swing and gravity do the work. So now my elbows are down, so I already grew a couple inches. How are you doing over there?
Good.
Great, yeah. Very good. Yeah, so the head doesn't have to touch down. Mine is about 2 inches away. That's okay if it does. Yeah. See how that's feeling. See if you need to wiggle a little bit.
Can we still be pumping the legs? Or?
I usually just leave them in a position when I find the sweet
I'm a little
spot.
tired, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, the body will just kind of fall into what is an equilibrium for itself. If it feels good, go ahead and do it, but I kind of came to a homeostasis. And then I just let everything go. So what's beautiful about these poses is it's really about how deeply you can relax. That's how we get the stretch. And you'll notice the lower back is releasing. Everything starts to kind of drip and drain down towards the head. And all of this blood and oxygen that is getting to our head brain. When I say brain, I'm going to be referring to the head for a little bit here. This is incredibly good for us. We don't normally experience so much nutrients getting to our brain. And we're kind of dousing or saturating our brain with a lot more blood and oxygen than normal. Maybe you're getting a little congested. That happens. That's okay. And maybe there's some pressure. Some people feel like there's too much pressure on their head or eyes. And if that's the case, you just come up and take frequent breaks and revisit through repetition. So I'm going to start to straighten my legs, and my toes are going to naturally start to drip down towards the ground, and I'm going to straighten my arms as well. And so I'm not going to come into a down dog because I'm still floating, but I am going to come into an upside down dog where my arms are stretched out. So I have a down dog shape with my upper body, and then my legs will just float. And then I'm going to pull forward and back, and I'm going to play with a version of cat-cow or cat's meow. So I'm going to tuck in, press my arms straight, pushing back, and then I'm going to inhale, straight arms, pulling forward in the arch. Very gently undulating the spine while still in an inversion will help to pump the energy all the way up through the nervous system and brain stem. Inhaling, lift. And exhaling, rounding in. Pushing back. Inhale, pull forward, arch. That's it. Exhale, press back. Just let this feel good. See if you can articulate each one of the vertebrae from lower back to neck. Finding the apex and the center point of the heart, communicating with the other two hubs. Inhaling, lift. Long, deep breaths. Exhaling, push back. Inhaling, lift. Okay. So while we're here, what I'd like to do is bring the legs wide and then hook the feet, right? Outside in. Yeah. So I'm going to do the same movement where I inhale, lift, and then exhale, push back. This is a more of a traditional upside down dog. Inhaling, lift and arch. That's it. Exhaling, press back. So the feet hooked is really just a personal preference and more of an intermediate version of this practice. It has a nice
deep tractioning along the hip flexors into the quads. All right, inhale, lift, pull forward, release the toes. Let them hang towards the center of the mat and see if you can pull down with your core to get your feet to touch down.
That's a little challenging for some people. I'm like, one way or another, bring yourself back up. And then we are going to go ahead and bring the swing to the belly now. We're going to let it be across the middle. And we're going to bring our arms out like wings. And in our angel wings, we're going to just gently rock from side to side, lifting through the crown, grounding through the balls of the feet and tailbone. I just gently push my tailbone forward and down, and that helps me to lift. Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Coming in review.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, just keep the wings open. And we're out in a T, right? So a little bit higher shoulder distance. Yeah, that's it. There you go. If you have
I'm going
enough
to do this
room.
because I'm going to hit the plant.
I know, right? Touch everything.
But that idea, I'll follow you when I do it.
Good. And then we're going to let the swing come back up over the head. Whew. Come on back through. Get it underneath the arms. Push it down below the tips of the wings. And then go ahead and slide back into Chillaxin. Okay, and let's just take a moment of inventory. Seeing how we're feeling, how's the body doing. Whew, nice and easy, nice and slow. Now the first one is always like, kind of like the flushing out, right?
I feel like I want to, like, I just yawned. Like, I feel like I took a nap.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so do you feel rejuvenated? Or how do you feel after you take a nap?
I feel just, like, rested
Okay.
and calm.
Mhm.
Rested and calm.
Beautiful.
Both good things.
Yeah, all good things. No, it really is amazing if we just slow it all down, focus on the breath. It can be very rejuvenating to do a headstand.
Yeah.
And it is still considered more of an energizing practice, but the way we do it, it's extremely restorative to just hang like that. So we're not as engaged or working. So beautiful. So now we're going to try that one more time, but without the leg loops on. Okay, so we're going to come out of Chillaxin back to sumo, reversing it. And let's just do one supportive back bend, just as wide as you can go, working with the space, using your Chillaxin arm swing from side to side. Straight legs if you can. And just focus on the heart being the center point, the middle hub that controls and communicates, harmonizes the belly and the head. So we're really engaging with this new idea that the three brains and the three Holo-spheres are all working together now. We want them to hum and create like, if you imagine it being hula hoops, we want them to syncopate and harmonize in a way that there's an equilibrium in the body, an equanimity between the lower and upper hubs. And that comes from the heart in training those two parts of the body. Yeah, really good. Okie dokie. Now we're going to hold on to the swing, lift ourselves back up, and come to stand, center of the mat. Let's adjust the swing to the front. And you can always bring it down, like I was saying before. Mine's a little high, but I'm going to try it. Might have to hop up, but that's okay. So yeah, so we use our arms, come up onto the tippy toes, press down. So the swing is hitting the top of the legs. A little faster this time. Inhaling forward, press, 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 and exhale, come on down. Oops, yeah, we're going to keep the feet grounded this time in the center of the mat. So I like the center of the mat. It actually adds a little bit more tension here to the hips, but I like the digging in. If you want it to be a little bit more gentle, you can come to neutral where your feet walk to the back so your hips are in the center. I like to push my hips over the front of the mat. That's just my variation. I used to teach it the other way where we were always using the mat as the alignment, but
This with the fingertips about a foot in front is what I like more. Stretch out even more. Yeah, you're nice and long. There you go. Your feet can stay in the center of the mat. Your hands stretch out. Mhm. Beautiful. And if you wanted a little bit more grip, we can always just wet the mat, but that's just part of the suction cups I do. Like just imagine little suction cups on your feet, kind of grounding you down. Hip distance with the feet if you can. There you go. Okay, so let's go into our forward fold. First, just shaking it out. Okay, you can play with pulsing your heels down here to get a stretch through the back body. Nice and easy. And then I always love to go into cat's meow before headstand. So we're going over our down dog sequence. So inhale, lift, and then exhale, round in. Really focus on undulating the spine to communicate through the brain stem to the head. So tailbone and crown of the head connected and clearing the central pathway. I find the congestion that happens in the brain minimizes if we warm up the spine first. So people who tend to have a hard time with inversions, it's usually because their spines are really clogged, right? Lengthen the breath today. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Taking your time.
So nice.
Inhaling, lift. Okay, last one. Exhale, curl in. And once you're here, walk your hands to the front of the mat, feet to the back of the mat as you bend your elbows and they touch down. We're coming into a floating leaf, and your head can relax down to the ground. So, crown of the head probably isn't touching yet. Doesn't matter if it is. And we're more just focusing on the pulsation of the feet coming up and down. So I've been doing my headstand, the floating headstand, with the leg loops up at my groin for quite a while now. That's my favorite, but I just thought it'd be fun to review it from our beginner training, where we get in through our forward folds and down dog sequence. And pulsing up and down, we're getting that nice deep rolfing session on the hip flexors and top of the legs. And then when we're ready, we're going to drop in, bend the knees. I like to clasp the hands together for this version. I like to push the crown of the head into the earth. So I'm going to lift my knees just enough so I'm touching. And I don't want too much weight where I'm actually creating any pain or strain, but just enough so that I can really connect. And so one of the cues I really like, I'm just going to turn around so you can see me here, but you can stay where you are. So, camera, it's like, oh, just look at my butt the whole time. So I'll turn around. Okay, same position though. Just get in a little faster. And it's a little bit easier to hear me this way too. So one of the cues I really like is to imagine through this pillar or this grounding cord that you can dump out, like the earth can compost and drain out all of the heaviness, all of the heavy thoughts, all of the excess energy, any of the negativity or charge that wants to be released. We can literally just let it drain out the crown of the head. So this is a great thing to do even before bed, just to kind of cleanse the day. If you're finding it difficult to turn the brain off and have the thoughts relax and slow down, then this is a great symbology of giving it to the earth, dumping it out, kind of like how we take out the trash or flush the toilet. Whichever analogy feels right. This is a great way of doing that. Just giving it to Mama Earth. She knows how to compost. It'll all be recycled and renewed, returned to you. So this is a good way of even doing a short meditative practice. 5 minutes is enough. You don't need to stay in headstands more than 5 minutes. The benefits are gained in a short period of time because they're so effective, efficient, and they're recalibrating the whole body. So I have my knees together, feet together, and then the other option is to hook the feet outside in and see which one feels best for your body. I find hooking the feet does a deeper tractioning on the hips, and that feels good, but maybe it's not nearly as restorative. So the more gentle version is knees together, feet together. And we want to squeeze here, squeeze towards the center line so the sacrum spreads. This is really quite healing for the lower back and the SI joints. So that's why we have the knees together, feet together. That's an important cue. That actually opens up the inner spiral in the lower body. We've worked with the spirals before, so we're inner spiraling the legs by squeezing them together. And you stay as long as you wish. If you start to get too congested, or your body will just say, okay, that's enough. If there's pressure happening, sometimes it actually relieves those things and it feels really good, so you can stay a little longer. But in this pose, we're activating the pineal gland, and the pineal is considered the master cell in the center of our brain. And that one controls and regulates a lot of bodily functions. It's also considered the higher mind, or communication with our higher self or spirit, higher wisdom, turning on our third eye. So there's a lot of power to this practice and benefits that we don't even really need to know all of the body parts. But yeah, there's a really important reason why this is called the king of all postures. It has a lot to do with the activation of the pineal gland. And then the legs are going to continue to straighten now, back down towards the ground, nice and slow. We're going to exit as gently as we got in. Let the toes touch down and let the arms lengthen. Come back around and face the camera. You can stay where you are. And we're going to stay down. We're going to come through our cat's meow again. Adjust the swing, maybe lift one leg at a time. As you can tell, having the extra fabric of the leg loops actually cushions the hip flexors a little bit more. So I've gotten feedback that many of my clients like that better. Even though you can't have as much touchdown, it gives it a little bit more cushion. Okay, so inhaling, undulating the spine with a focus on opening up the nervous system and brainstem for more of the happy hormones to flow into the bloodstream, through the vertebrae, lubricating the space in between the spine, in between each vertebrae, and pumping the energy around with the breath. Letting that feel really good. To squeeze everything out on the exhale, emptying, and then inhale, imagining breathing in more revitalized life force energy. Giving the body, the spine, a chance to reset, giving it a break and a sacred pause, opening it up. And let's just take a moment to do our loop-de-loops or figure eights or any sort of freestyle that wants to happen today, because we want to open up the spins and spirals, not just forward and backwards, but side to side and all around. Let the neck be happy. So maybe the head just drops and sinks down, and maybe you're rolling the head around as well. But make sure the neck is not strained in this practice or this position. We're going to come to center and just shake it out. Shake, 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 shake. Shake out the hips, shake out the shoulders, shake out the hair. Just shaking it out. And then the feet walk forward, the hands walk forward, and pressing in, press, press, press. Come up through angel wings. Let the swing slide to the waist again. Yeah, which it'll naturally do. Lifting through the crown of the head and grounding down through the feet, through the tailbone. Hold on to the swing. Come on. And just take a breath. You can have a sip of water. It's always good to do a little bit of cleansing in between, because we are detoxing the body really quickly too. So
anything that's being held in the spine or, in the bloodstream will just kind of release. And that flushing is really good, but it can be a little intense. So just doing a little review that if there is a need to boost the immune system, I've been doing a lot of immune boosting. We use inversions, and we use the breath, and we do core activation, and we strengthen our core. And those 3 practices are also all good for the brain, right? And all good for the blood and circulation and oxygen flux. So we work the body all together, but yeah, doing the inversions are also good for boosting the immune system. So part of boosting the immune system is releasing the body of toxins. So any toxins that need to be released will naturally happen when we go upside down. How do you feel?
Good.
Yeah?
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just taken me a while to work up to be able to do inversions like that. It's a little bit into the hips, a little bit intense without these loops, as you said.
Yeah.
But I felt so relaxed, and I just closed my eyes, and the feeling I have is of when I go diving.
Okay.
I kind of switch. My brain goes into a very different state when I'm doing in the swim and doing inversions a lot.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
So we have these different brainwave functionalities that I wasn't even considering talking about, but this is a good cue. Thank you. So we have alpha, theta, beta, delta, gamma. We have these different brainwave states, and they really do affect our state of being. I particularly work with theta a lot in my meditations and my quantum healing and that kind of thing. Theta is similar to like dreaming. We go in and out of theta every night when we're sleeping, because whenever we go into a dream state, it's accessing theta state. And we can access that in meditation too. But the experience, at least my interpretation, is alpha. So the alpha state is that deep relaxation. You're still relaxed but aware, but it almost feels like dreamy or floaty. And it really does switch from the beta, which is kind of like the more active cognitive mind, details, point A, point B, handling, problem solving. And then alpha is kind of like that deeper state of relaxation that you can enter in a massage, or in the swing, or in diving or snorkeling or something like that, where it just changes. It's like when you're in water, you're actually changing mediums, right? And the difference between our air and water in terms of gravity and how, so that automatically shifts us into an alpha state where we do feel that levity and that lightness, right, from the shift of mediums.
Yeah, there's a total brain shift. When you go diving, you have to be like, wait, I'm underwater now, why am I breathing? There's that whole thing. And gravity,
Yeah. And so another thing that I don't do as much with the swing, except in meditation at the end, is we go from right brain to left brain. So right brain is, again, the critical thinking, it's the conscious mind, it's the point A to point B, where the left brain has the visualization and imagination, and that right brain is beta, typically, and the left brain is alpha and theta, where we get into more of the imagery, using imagination, visualization, the artistry, that kind of thing. So it can feel very dreamy to be underwater, and we can actually get that feeling in the swing, particularly in cocoon, and we'll do a nice long cocooning today, where we're allowing ourselves to float, right? That floating and that rocking movement can feel very similar and can stimulate an alpha state. So thank you for saying that. And if we slow it down, even something like an inversion can be very relaxing. So yeah, I prefer, myself, I do like the pineal activation and the engagement, but the floating headstand with the leg loops on, where we're kind of triple binded here, feels just really good to me, as in terms of I can just really let go.
I agree. Feels safe.
Yeah, we're all wrapped up.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to do our inversions with the swing around our hips, around the back of the hips, and I'm going to do some variations there, where we're going to do some undulations like we just did. We're going to do some twists. So this one's a little bit more active. So this would be the go-to for beginners and for restorative. we're going to do some inversions and do a little bit more active. We're not going to do the breath of fire, but we are going to do those long, deep breathing practices for the distressor. But this is, of course, more of the intermediate. Like we learned the Peaceful Warrior in our second day of intermediate training, not in the basics. So we're going from basic to intermediate now. And so I'll start out this way, but when we do go upside down, I am going to go ahead and turn around. So I'll be facing the camera, but you can stay where you are too. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back into sumo. We're going to do our first one. And I'm just covering it all, you know, so we have the full breadth of the practice. From sumo, we're going to go ahead and get back into our Chillaxin Pose. Let's extend the legs this time for floating Buddha, just for a little variety, but it can be and would be the same. And just go through a few undulations here. So from floating Buddha, we can go into star, and then namaste, ladle. So notice that even in ladle, like that's enough. This could be a really great brain tuner and brain activation, which is what we did for our endocrine system. Any sort of back bend and inversion together is going to turn on the endocrine system, and the pineal is part of the endocrine system. And then from here, we can bring the legs wide around and let the toes touch on the front plane, and then we're upside down. So we can get into our inversion with either our chill flow or floating through the sequence. So go ahead and stay where you are. I'm going to just turn around so you can face the camera. This is Peaceful Warrior. It's our number one inversion. Swing has to be really comfortable across the hips. If the swing isn't comfortable, you come back into ladle, wiggle it a little bit from side to side so it's right across the iliac crest. When it's around the waist or the love handles, when you wrap your legs around, it doesn't feel great. So make sure it's in a good position. From here, we bring the feet together, knees wide, push the bum forward so you can feel your tailbone. Instead of sinking back, it's pushing up towards the sky. This helps to align the Holo-spheres like we've been talking about. So the head, heart, and hips are all in one plane in a straight line. From here, we're just going to clasp the elbows and hang. So even if the crown of the head isn't touching, I want you to imagine the grounding cord or this pillar, this column, sinking down into the earth, and all of this energy can pour out. We're going to open up the top of the head like it's a little attic door. Since we're upside down, everything can fall out. Taking an old purse, turning it upside down, get a good shake. All this stuff is going to fall out that we didn't even know was in the cracks and crevices and corners. And we want to do that with our brain. Shake out all those thoughts, memories, stories. Just use this practice as an opportunity to let them go. And making more room and space. So we use breath for that too. For the next couple of moments, let's clasp the hands behind the back of the head and work the neck and occipital ridge. I love letting my head twist from side to side, stretching the cervical spine. You can tuck the chin to chest and nod. It also feels good. Or add some twists, looking over one shoulder and then the other shoulder. And of course, you want to stay as long as it's comfortable. Typically, I'll start to feel my toes, and the toes are like, wait a second, I'm not getting as much blood and oxygen as I'm used to.
Just as you said that, getting that numbness.
And they'll be fine, because they get plenty. They're spreading around. Guaranteed that they're going to get some more. Yeah, they get more than theirs for. Like, when did we decide that the toes needed more blood and oxygen than the brain? I don't know.
So funny.
Yeah. And then in this position, I also love, just very gently, I'm going to rock back and forth and do a little crunch. So it's just a gentle undulation of the spine.
Are you lifting?
Yeah.
Is it a stomach thing?
Yeah, I like to do a little crunch, chin to chest, engage the belly, because remember we have 3 brains, so this helps me engage my belly brain, my heart brain,
And my head brain. And we're strengthening the front of the spine. So I'm actually pushing my head forward and then I'm pushing my head back. So I'm arching. It's kind of like a cat-cow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just real gentle though. Just slow. Not full strength. All right, we're going to come back through our floating Buddha. Keep the leg loops on if it's possible. Legs go wide and around.
Yay! Coming on back up, drop the hips, lift the head. You might feel a little woozy or dizzy or lightheaded or high. I'm always like, woo! Yeah, that's the sound. And then just allow yourself to go into some windshield wipers here. The windshield wipers, or swagger, whatever we like to call it, is so important for changing planes. And when we cross planes, we're activating the left and right sides, the left and right hemispheres of the brain. And this is incredibly good for building new neural pathways, stimulating new synapses, getting the brain to turn on. So there's a lot of benefit to doing this simple rocking movement, and it's incredibly soothing for the nervous system, as well as it starts to open up. So the twists and spins and spirals in the body, and that helps ring out the nervous system as well. Okay, lots of good juju happening here in this simple movement. And it just feels good. It's good to drop the hips, lift the heart, let the head sink back into the hands. Mm-hmm. Opening up the leg lines, back of the body. Very good. Okay, let's come in and do one more. And we're going to add some twists and whatnot. Okay, so let's inhale star, exhale namaste, inhale press up, reverse, ladle, slide in. So in this position, let's wiggle it into the sweet spot across the hips. Bring the legs wide and then around. Yeah, fully upside down. Make sure it's in a good spot because we're going to be here for a bit longer. And if you ever need a break, just come back up. We're going to stretch our hands to the back of the mat, over the head. Yeah. So it's like we're in an upside down dog again. And just take a moment to stretch the belly. Roll the head around. Roll the head and neck around. Toes are touching. Knees are wide. Hips are pressing forward. Now from this position, I like to inhale, pull forward. We're kind of repeating what we did before, just from a whole new vantage point, more intermediate. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, press back, upside down dog. So when we go from up dog to upside down dog, we're doing our cat's meow. So in your down dog, I want you to pull in through your core a little more, as long as it doesn't bother your shoulders. Inhale, arch. And then exhale, round in, really gently. Yeah, just a little bit, that's it. Good. Getting the belly involved with the practice. Exhale. You can even bend the elbows to curl in there. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, try bending the elbows and rolling in. Separate the shoulders. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's different.
That way it doesn't get the strain on the shoulder joint.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good adjustment.
Exhale. Very good. That feels really good. Getting all three Holo-spheres communicating, activated. Focusing on the heart and the arch. Coming from the upper thoracic spine. Lower back is happy. Inhaling, exhaling. Very good. Okay, so now I want to come into some twists. Let's hang out in center for 30 seconds. Let's just reset. And of course, if you needed to come up, you can reset in floating Buddha. See how the body's feeling. Lots of gentle, sacred pauses when we're upside down for so long. So it's a very intensive practice then. Yeah, it's like 5 minutes upside down and it just resets the entire system. So we're doing a solid hour. Back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we'll go into a nice long shavasana. Okay, so let's come into some twists. So we can do twists from our up dog and then bend one elbow and then look over or under the shoulder. I like looking over the shoulder. So that's one way. Inhale, up dog, exhale, bend the elbow and twist. It's a little bit more of an active way of getting into the body. And then the other way is just from center. I'm going to use my hands to push and pull and spin in the space. So see which one feels better to you today. I also tend to work the legs when I twist and make it a little bit more freestyle dynamic. So do what feels good for your body. But the legs always like to get involved.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, feels really good. It's almost like a kickstand or ollie, I call it. Good. And just have some free time, have some playtime, see what feels good on the body before we bend the knee and brought the foot back behind us as well. That's one of my favorites. So yeah, you don't have to do a whole lot to get a big shift happening in the body when we're twisting upside down. Just a little twist goes a long way. See if there's any parts or pieces or nooks and crannies that we want to get wrung out while we're here. Yeah. Yeah, and of course we're gonna come back to center in our last one that we can do are handstands, right? So we really focused our inversions on headstands today, but I'm gonna straighten my legs towards the sky and press up into my hands. And this would be more of the advanced inversions where I'm really engaging and focusing on my alignment. I don't really have to focus on my balance because the swing's holding me. But if we went into our handstand variations, we could really focus on balance as well. Whew. So now we're grounding through the palms and the crown of the head, like we're triple prong grounded, and letting there be some engagement and strength building for the upper body. So this will get more of our heart rate up. This will be more of a active and dynamic practice, but it's just good to go over that short visit at the end of our sequence here. Okay, I'm gonna let the leg loops come off. Reach up and grab for the swing. Yeah, we don't need those now. We're gonna come through our sit-up, scissor, balance. Come on down. Landed in a sumo squat. Stay seated. I'm just turning around so we wind up facing the camera. Ah, nice and lightheaded. Back to sumo. Our number one upright position. And so, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So immediately we do get these rushes, and that is all of these hormones dumping into the bloodstream, pulsing through the spine, and just getting so much more energy to these parts and pieces that aren't used to it. Yeah. That was a nice long one. Yeah. So yeah, you could just do one of those. You don't have to do all of them. We just went through the whole variety pack of inversions. Yeah, and then we're just going to take some time to cool down, but then we're going to get into our nice long cocooning, and I'll lead us through a meditation today. That'll be really nice. Focusing on the Holo-spheres and this visualization of the brain, of the spine, of the nervous system, the immune system all working together. And wrapping up what we've done with the hormones and endocrine system too. Whew. How are you feeling?
Good, that was intense.
What was intense about it?
Just when it came up, I noticed my body did, I just wasn't used to it. I felt the blood rush back down to my toes.
Right.
My toes turned bright red, and everything was just a little bit shaken up.
Yeah.
I felt my heart. I was like, I tried to do I was check my pulse.
Yeah.
Because sometimes my heart skip does some weird things and it scares me a little. So
Yeah.
I was just like, am I okay? I did
Yeah.
that.
Are you gonna make it? Yeah. Yeah,
Am
it
I
just takes a
okay?
minute. Yeah.
Am I having I don't know. I just check in with myself and make sure
Yeah.
because I think that's intense.
For sure. Yeah, and then it is just trusting the body and letting
Yeah.
our brain tell us, like, yeah, inversions are good for us and it's okay, but it's a big rush. And we do flush the energy and the blood back down to the toes, and that's like a really powerful experience. So yeah, it is intense. It's just good to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because everybody's intense is different. So it's like, oh, what do you mean by intense? And some people are like, oh God, I felt so lightheaded or dizzy. And other people feel like, oh, I felt my heart beat, or I felt, the blood flowing in different ways.
Yeah, it's an unfamiliar feeling. It's like that.
Let's have some more water.
It's like when it's not exactly like this, but when an airplane sinks and you get that feeling in your stomach, it didn't feel like that, but it's that feeling where your body's going to go, whoa, what is that? It's unfamiliar.
Yeah, and it is a bit of a rush. So it's good to talk about it and let the body get used to it. Even after doing this for a couple years, we don't normally do that many inversions in a row. So then it's like a deeper, each time we go in, we go deeper into the effects, the rush, the release, all of that. Yeah.
It's good.
Mm-hmm.
None of it's